having said that, there's something people never talk about: dealing with trauma, and especially trauma in dating, and how to get away from an abusive relationship, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, and how sometimes you miss this person who actually abused you, and you want to go back, or you end up going back because no one ever talks about what you're supposed to do when you're getting away from an abusive relationship.
Sometimes I'm mystery, sometimes I'm free, depending on my mood, on my attitude. Sometimes I wanna roll or stay at home.
Have you figured out within yourself, how to deal with your own trauma?
Or have I been in an
Yes.
abusive relationship?
Yes.
Well, I have. When I decided to leave my baby daddy, it got very violent. And at that time I was in third year, I remember. Because I left him in 2012. And I think he thought it was one of those on and off moments. But I'd had it. I was like, you know
were
what?
done.
I'm done. I don't want you. I don't want anything to do with you. I'm moving on with my life. So it became a violent relationship. Okay, not a relationship, encounter. And I remember the first time he hit me and I was like, whoa, what's happening? You know? And then he came back and apologized. And because I was still very willing to let him be a part of my child's life, I let him come back, but not as
Boyfriend.
a boyfriend. I just wanted him to have a part in my son's life. So it happened the second time, because I remember it was in July and he asked me, come get the money you need, because at that point my son was sick and I needed to get money from him. I'd already paid the hospital bill and we'd agreed he'd pay half of it and I'd pay the other half. So he called me up, hey, come over, pick the other half. So as we were speaking, he hit me and things spiraled out of control. And I remember the next day, we were starting our examinations, the third day exams. And I had to miss out that whole week because I had to get some stitches in the back of my head. Yeah. So I just, and for me that's a non-negotiable. Violence is a no-no for me. I don't hit and I don't let anyone hit me back. If it gets to that point, and the one thing I've realized is you can tell very early in the relationship if someone is very violent. Because even after that relationship, I've never been in any other violent relationship, but I've noticed, I learned to pick up
Violent
traits.
tendencies,
Yeah. Where someone would probably be the aggressor, and then once you approach them, they become very angry. Like, why are you saying that? Or why are you doing that? Why are you hurting me?
They become manipulative.
They start to gaslight you, and it feels like now you start doubting yourself and questioning your own sanity. Like, am I overreacting?
My God, was crazy.
Am I crazy? You know, such things. So for me, being in that violent relationship, and that was a point I got to, and I decided, you know what, it's not worth it. I don't want this man in my life. I don't want this man in my child's life. Because at the end of the day, if he's treating me like this,
how will he treat his child?
How will he treat his child? And he was very manipulative in that everyone around him thought I was
The crazy
The
one.
crazy one, you know? And the most funny bit about it was I didn't need to explain myself. And you have to learn to leave things as are and let people have whatever assumptions they have of you. You do not need to clean up anyone's perception of who you are. If you know in yourself who you truly are, you don't need to. You don't need to keep explaining to the world, this is who I am, this is who I am. And the one thing I didn't realize, I had not dealt with all that pain for a very long time because I kept on telling myself, I'm strong enough. I walked away from him, I'm strong enough, I'm strong enough. But these are things that you build up with time and they eat you up, you know. And you ask yourself, you've been a good woman, you've been a good chick to this man, why would he treat me like this? And it's only in our minds where you decide, do you want to take that from someone, be it a friend? Because there are friends who are abusive. You find that they won't hit you, but constantly they'll manipulate you in ways, you know.
They'll become emotionally
abusive.
Or
They'll
psychologically.
Exactly. They'll abuse you emotionally. They'll say things like, oh, I don't like the way you do this, I don't like the way you... Just very small things. Well, there are things that people point out that you need to change. But constantly when you find that you have that one friend who picks on things you can't actually change, where you're from, how you've lived your life, or just very personal stuff, those are not your friends. And we all have that one friend. You know, we all have that one friend that we find hard to break ties with, but they're not right for us. So we just have, I think you have to have a very strong personality as is to decide you're not going back. You're not going back to war. Yes. It's not worth it. It's not worth to go back to a man or a woman who abuses you, be it emotionally, psychologically, or physically. It does not make any sense. What it's going to do is it's going to make you become less of who you are, because you'll always have to worry. Because I've had friends who, you're probably out somewhere, you're not even doing anything, you're maybe having lunch, and then it's past a certain time and they go like, oh, no, I have to get home. And you're like...
And you can see they're genuinely scared.
And you're like, why? And they go like, because so-and-so will maybe lock me out of the house. And they won't say it, they'll just say, because I just need to get home, I need to do this and that and that. But do you realize as an adult, you don't need to be in such a relationship. You don't need to live in fear of
your significant other.
Exactly. If it's not, if you're not happy, if you cannot sit down as adults and speak, what are you doing there? Because you're not a child. Even children are not supposed to be afraid. You know, I don't want my child to be somewhere at 6, seated at 6 p.m. thinking, oh my God,
my mom's going to kill me today.
I'll get punished because I'm not home yet. I want to be able to speak to this child in a way that they understand why I don't want them to be out at that particular time. But not have them scared of, oh, I'm out at 6, I'll die.
And still the fear of God.
Yes. So some of you have grown up with that, and then you get into a relationship.
And that's all you know.
So all your life, you've lived your life in fear. I don't want to spend money because he's going to get angry. I don't want to do this. I can't do my hair like that. I can't wear that dress because it's too short, because he'll be like, you're not supposed to be feeding his insecurities. I don't know why people find the need to caress people's insecurities. It's not your work to fix anyone. If they have their insecurities, let them deal with them. But if you feel that relationship is breaking you, because there's this quote I really like, givers should set the limits. because takers rarely do.
Ooh.
You give so much love, and then this person is giving you the bare minimum. And you feel like, oh, they're giving you heaven on earth. But they're not. They've found a way to manipulate you. They found a way to make you feel that what they're giving you is enough.
Is everything.
Is sufficient for you. So what you do is you belittle yourself. You can't say anything because you're afraid they will take away
the little
that they've given you. But one thing I've learned about real love, and I have a few friends that are fortunate enough to be married to very good men, is that it's so free. It's so free. This person is nourished, they flourish, they look happy, they grow.
Like you can see it from
they're glowing.
Exactly.
And it's beautiful. They don't have to explain themselves. It's out there. But a few of us, because I've been there, want to stay in a situation where you have to explain everything.
Constantly.
You have to live in fear. Because I remember at a certain point, that relationship did not get to a toxic stage, but it was headed there. Someone once called me and they asked me, where are you? And I lied about where I was. And lo and behold, in Nairobi, if you lie, you're at a certain point and you're not there. Traffic from heaven just falls. You know? And and I had to rush. I had to find my way. And so this guy calls me, where are you? You told me you're at this place. I'm waiting for you. I've waited for you for about 30 minutes. Where are you? So I had to get off the Uber, find a bike, and it was raining. And I'm like, oh my God.
All for this person.
All
this
for
is not
what?
Even
I'm not even married to this guy. And it was so cold.
Oh, Jesus.
And I got there and I looked at this guy and I told myself, you know what? It's not going to work. It's not going to work because it's not love. It's not love. I don't love you. You don't love me. I'm afraid of losing you. That in itself is not love. So
that's a whole other.
Yeah. So looking back at some things I've put myself through.
Yeah, put yourself through. Because you could have easily walked out. Yeah. Okay, not easily, but you could have walked out.
I look back and I laugh because it's just when you're at that, when in that relationship, it doesn't look so toxic until you take a step back and realize, no. And what you've said about missing the abuser, you miss them. The days you think, oh, well, everybody cheats.
Yeah.
No, honey. Everyone doesn't cheat.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, maybe he was talking to me like this because I really made a stupid
I really messed up, yeah.
No. No sane human being should talk to another human being in a certain way just because they're in a position of power or whatever. So don't ever feel the guilt of, oh, I ought to have done this this way, or gone back to a person because you feel like you walked away for the wrong reason. There's a reason you walked away. And if you sit to yourself and not, because I feel like mostly we look at the outside world instead of looking deep within. Because if you just sit to yourself and think of all the things you want, you'd know why it didn't work in the first place. And that's all we need. That's actually all we need.
No. I've never been in a toxic, not toxic, an abusive relationship, especially physically. Sometimes I think that I have been in emotionally abusive ones, but they didn't quite blossom kabisa into the full toxicity.
Yeah.
But there were, you just you're like, man, this one is just heading there.
Yeah.
And I find it very hard sometimes I mean, with physical abuse, it's very easy to see the signs from the word go. With emotional and mental, takes a while because very many people don't show their real selves until a certain point. And with physical, you'll see how aggressive someone is, you'll see how they're quick to anger and all that. It's easy to spot that. But then now you meet someone who is amazing, but they're manipulative, and you can't tell from the word go. And you don't realize that it's a red flag. But you're like, no, maybe I did mess up. And they'll tell you in the sweetest of ways, babe, why would you do that? But it's not me. What? She said that about me. And you're thinking, oh God, I must be crazy. And always you will think that you're the crazy one. And then when you sit back and you're out of that relationship, it could be a few weeks, a few months later, and you're like, wow, that girl was actually insane. You've given that example of an Uber, and I remember it was actually recent. And I met someone who I was talking to, and it was like things were going well. And he messed up. He didn't apologize. To date. He's never apologized.
Red flags.
Yeah.
You need to have a red flag.
And for me, I think I'm glad it happened recently. So it was at the point where I know what I want and I can spot bullshit from a mile away. So the moment that whole situation happened, I was like, I don't need this. I blocked Nini. I don't talk to this person anymore. But I sat down and I was like, there's a day I actually considered calling him and be like, hey, what's up? You've been lost. And I realized, oh my God, there's still a part of me
that wants him.
That still wants, because he was, I mean, we would sit down and have amazing conversations. And you're like, hey, Yanni, I'm going to miss out on that. He was hella fine. Also, there was that part and I'm like, Lord, hold me back. Because, so I remember we were supposed to meet up. And then he was coming to pick me up. And then he did not show up. So I'm dressed up, I'm ready, nini. Then he goes quiet. So, because I've already reached this point in my life where I'm like, oh, okay, so you're not coming. I found things to do. I went, I watched a play, nini. Then he calls me when I'm leaving the play ended Osiku. Calls me, he's like, you sound like you're on the move. I'm like, yeah. Then I told me I went to watch the play. We talked about it. Then he goes like, without me. Excuse me.
Wait, disclaimer, Nairobi men. Where did you get this phrase from? Without me? Like, honestly, I don't get where that phrase came from.
And then, instead of apologizing about how
Not
he's not come through, he's not, like, you made me waste my whole day because I moved things around to accommodate the fact that we were supposed to meet. He didn't apologize. Then he asked me, where are you? I'm like, I'm in a cab. Because I was giving directions to the cab guy to the house. And he tells me, get out. Get out. I was like, I don't trust him. I was like, excuse me, sir. Who are you? First of all, we've not even gotten to that point of we are in a relationship. We've just started hanging out. We've not even said we are good. Why should I get out of this cab? I trust this cab driver as much as I trust you because if anything, we have spent the same amount of time together.
Yeah.
As I have spent with this cab driver that you do not trust. Same way I know you. Yeah. I know nothing about you. So, I'm not going to get out of this cab because you're feeling insecure about another male person in my life. And I was just like... And then he didn't apologize. And for me, I was like, and then when I brought it up, I was like, okay, you called me to ask me stupid questions and give me stupid orders, but you did not call to apologize. You told me, where what are you? And I was like, what? Like,
Wait,
Ata, sorry?
What?
No. He was like, what are you? As in, so now me, I'm the one who's being crazy. And I was like, sir? This is it. Like, for me, and I'm glad it happened at a point where I'm self-aware. Because I feel like if it was a few years back, I would have let that slide.
Yeah. Like,
Easy.
get off the cab.
Like, no, I wouldn't have got the cab. That's a bit extreme.
No,
I'd have... You would
like, okay, I'm out of the cab. Are you picking me?
Are you coming to get me? Yeah. And your street where? No. I'm closer to home than you are to me. So I was like, okay. I would have told him, okay, I'll get home and I'll call you. You know, like the good girl that I am, or girlfriend that I am. I would have gotten home and I'd have told him, it's okay that you didn't show up. And if he would have called me the next day and told me, let's meet up, or I'm coming to see you, I would have let him come.
Gladly.
Oh my God, that is so sweet. He comes and then, now me, try. It's try. I cannot. And now the fact that the next week, I sat and I was in town, I knew where his office was, and I actually contemplated going just to drop by and be like, hey, what's up? And I realized, oh my God, it's still something that is there. Like, no one talks about how you miss someone who was an asshole to you.
True.
No one.
True.
We never tackle it. You're always like, you need to get out. No one tells you, okay, if you miss this person, and then what
and then
next?
after that, what do I do? I'm alone. So how do I handle it?
Exactly.
Oh, just recently, I met a guy. You met him. So.
Oh, okay. Our friend.
Yeah, our friend. So I noticed with him, he's an emotional abuser. Like, he'd say things like, oh, you need to gain weight. Because
what?
Yeah. Initially, I was very tiny. And he likes fake women. So I remember there's a statement he made, and that took me off of him completely. We were talking and he told me, hujatosha mboga. And I was like, dear Lord,
I'm so offended on your behalf.
Save me,
what?
yes. So, and I remember asking one of my friends, what makes this guy think he's the ideal man for me? One, he's not about 6 feet.
Yeah, so if we had to talk about body.
Yeah. And
what?
Yeah. And he kept on making, every time we'd meet, he'd objectify me so much. So much. And I remember the last date we had was about a month ago. So we went to dinner, and we're there having the meal. And I told him, I'd mentioned I didn't like what you said about Mimi kutosha mboga, blah, blah, blah. So he goes like, I'm sorry about that. I really didn't mean it. And then this is where it gets interesting. He tells me, I was just afraid.
Of what?
Of what? Then he tells me, of you leaving. And I'm like, oh.
So that's how you make someone stay.
Oh, okay. All right. And I was like, okay, that's confusing.
Yeah.
So we were done with dinner, and then as we're heading out, he's walking behind me, and then he goes like, now that size is the right one. And I'm like, not again. Oh Lord. And at this point, I was so pissed. So we get to the car. Mind you, I'm not dating him.
Oh. You should have led with that.
No, I said I was single for the last 2 years.
Yes, I know, but oh God.
Then
You're just going on dates.
Yeah. We get to the car and he goes like, now that you're the right size, can I take you home with me? I'm like,
what?
I'm like, is anyone else hearing this? You know, like,
like you're about to say, Nani,
cut, like,
yeah.
Yo, we're done with this episode.
And scene.
Yeah, you know. And
then what?
I got home. I was so pissed, and I told myself, I'm not the type of person to speak when I'm furious. I take my time, compose myself, and then come back. And I woke up in the morning. I didn't even have the strength to call him. I just texted him and I told him, I think this friendship is overdue. One, you'll never respect me. And I don't blame you, I blame myself because I did not set the boundaries early enough. Because I let him say these things over and over without me stopping him. So I don't blame him at all. I blame myself in this case. So I told him, he started apologizing. Oh, I don't want to lose you as a friend. And it's something he's said before. So I was like, no, this time it's not going to work. So I had to remove him from all my social feeds. Now, on missing the abuser. A week went by, 2 weeks went by, and I started feeling like, I overreacted? I should have just hushed up and let him say whatever he wanted to say. But there's no amount of time that will make someone respect you if they don't respect you in the first place, you know. And him apologizing does not change his behavior. It doesn't mean his behavior has changed because it's something that he had done before.
Yeah.
And I had forgiven.
More than once.
Yeah. And the fact that I told him, I don't like the way you talk to me, and he keeps objectifying me, making me feel like I need to be a certain body type to be appealing to him.
Then go look for that one who looks
exactly.
the way you want.
Because it's very simple. You can go out here, find whatever size of lady you're looking for. We don't dispute that everyone has a type. But what makes you feel that you are my type? As you come to me telling me, oh, you're not my type. You're not my type. And at the end of the day, you keep calling me, oh, I've missed you, I want to see you. So I really don't blame him because I also let him do all these things.
You let him treat you the way.
I let him treat me the way. So
I'm
in
so
Nairobi,
offended. Jesus.
Not even in Nairobi. In the world, you'll find that people are getting more ballsy, if I may say so.
Yeah.
They are now saying things out of spite or I don't know what we've become, but I think if he'd met a younger version of me who really wanted to settle down, who really wanted to have a partner just to say, oh, that's my guy, you know, I probably would have settled.
Yeah, and someone who, I mean, the validation for he doesn't like my body, so now you change your body just so that you can impress him.
Exactly.
And you gain weight or lose weight because you're like, he's like, oh, you know, I don't like how your tummy looks, or I don't like how your, I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
Kwanza even yo ya nywele. Me, I was like, how people, like, I don't like it when you braid your hair. I think you should cut your hair. I think
or
you
not
should
wear wigs.
Yeah.
Or not wear
Please,
wigs.
bruh, go find someone who does not do those
all
things,
yeah.
and then you can settle with them.
Yeah.
And don't make someone feel bad about who they are or what their body looks like, because then that shows how insecure you are. Because if the fact that he told you he was scared that you'd leave, I think for him, maybe in his head, he was left by someone who was skinny.
I'm sorry.
And now he thinks if she's too chubby or too thick, no one will want her, and so
no one else will look at her.
Yeah, and so now she'll be mine forever. I mean, and people have reasons as to why they act the way they do, but that's not an excuse.
True.
It's, I mean, we're all brought up in different situations. We all have there are people who are abused when they were younger, and that does not mean that because you watched your mom beat up your dad or your dad beat up your mom, you have to be that person. You choose. It's out of choice. Then now you be like, when I'm grown up, I will not treat the woman that I'm with like this, or I will treat her like this because I saw it and it was beautiful, or I saw it and it was bad, so I will not do it. It's out of choice. It can't be that, oh my God, I grew up in an abusive family, so I'm going to be an abuser. That's a stupid excuse. I'm so sorry, but it is true. That is just bullshit, for lack of a better word.
And
so, yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. And I also think we should always stop trying to justify everything someone does.
Behavior.
Yeah. You know, stop trying to excuse their behavior. If they hit you, it's not because you spoke a certain way to them. It is who they are.
Exactly.
They're going to hit you whether or not you say that word. They're going to hit you whether or not you moved in a certain way. And also, at times, we are very toxic, and we tend to trigger people into becoming certain things.
Yeah, that's right.
For instance, you will find that someone has grown up in a very violent home, and they've decided in themselves, I'm not going to be violent, I'm not going to be violent. But you trigger that by turning them into that thing. Probably you keep saying certain words all the time, not knowing very well that you are triggering this thing inside them, because it's everything that we do is in our subconscious. Like people tend to act as they have seen growing up. And that's the reason you'll find that children who grew up in an abusive home will either turn out to be very abusive to their partners or not at all. But also in the group of the not at alls, there's a small group that if triggered, they would instantly become abusive. So it's just, we should stop excusing people for whatever behavior.
Yeah. And there's all this, how we've grown up and the situations we've been in. Can you say that you as a person have been able to know how to deal with that trauma?